we've got a big announcement, I've been told. I've heard about it somewhere, that we've got a big announcement. You know, what's funny is we often will have guests on the program, and people will text in and say, I love that guy, or why are you talking to this guy, or this, they'll comment. And somebody we had on fairly recently, we got a ton of comments on. And what I love about a lot of the listeners is they feel like, well, why don't you just have that guy on all the time? Why don't you just, you should just have him come on every week. It's like, well, these people have schedules, and often that's not a priority for them. So we would love to. But we took their advice to heart in this case. And we said, you know what? Based on the response of that first conversation, let's see what we can do. Let's put the wheels in motion and see if we can get somebody of the caliber, the stature, the gravitas of John Schneider on this program on a regular basis. And that's exactly what we are going to do. Seahawks GM John Schneider is going to join us every Thursday at 4 o'clock beginning next week, going all the way up to Thursday of the NFL draft, which includes the first night of the draft. So you asked, you shall receive. John Schneider, we're excited to talk. He was a lot of fun when we talked to him last time, and we got so much positive response. So then started behind the scenes trying to get things going. Dave was working his magic, doing all of his brokering that he does. And I don't know what you finally settled on, if you have to wash Dave Pearson's car once a week during the summer or how that's going to go. But you were able to make it happen.
And by the way, Bump told me that he said the big news was that I was coming out of retirement and putting the pads back on.
Yeah, somebody
I don't think anybody believes that.
Somebody sent in a text, says, the big news is Dave pregnant?
Yeah, but that was like 4 months ago. I don't know how you missed that. This is a big deal, man. I mean, Schneider he's been in the league, been around the league for almost 35 years. I mean, he's in his early 50s. So, I mean, he right from the get-go. And I always make the joke that I think in 96, when I went to try out for the Packers, I think it was 97, that's when he was there. And I was like, yeah, you were probably one of the little, scouts that said no to me or something.
Said there was nothing left in the tank.
40 or something. Yeah, no. But, he started out with the Packers, and, he's been in Kansas City and here, of course. But it's really been a good ride. And coming up to this draft, I mean, this is the most important draft I think that we've seen since him and Pete have been here. Mm-hmm. So, and just a really good, down-to-earth guy, and lots of stories, from his career. And I told a story about this maybe a year or two ago, about Trent Kirchner, who's his pro scout director, and just how he got to be, and it's kind of the same thing with Schneider. He just wrote a bunch of letters to Ron Wolf, who was the GM of Green Bay, and finally got a job. And then, just the rest is history, because he's just has great instincts. But the story about Trent Kirchner was that he had his resume, and he was standing outside the combine in Indianapolis for, I think, 3 years. Mm-hmm. And finally somebody got his resume, gave it to somebody, and the rest is history. Now
he's a hustler, man. I like it.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story of John Schneider, and then, just what he's been able to do. And I think it's been difficult drafting when you're down near the bottom, but they've done a good job over the years, and he's just very, like I said, down to earth guy.
Yeah, and he doesn't do a lot of media. That's what I love. He'll do it at the GM, the combine when they have the coach and the GM. He'll do it in the places where it kind of always happens with every GM, but not a guy that does a lot of media. And he's got a great personality, great sense of humor. I mean, we obviously we share same love of movies and characters, and
we'll get him going on the Tommy Boy stuff, and that'll be.
That was a hoax, right?
That's actual audio from John Schneider. How about that?
No, he said something really funny that he did. I don't think he was trying to be funny, but last time, and he's like, yeah, they had a picture of me and Pete up in my favorite breakfast place, Fire Pete and John, and halfway through the season they took it down. Just said it very, very matter-of-factly, but that's kind of what is endearing about him. But man, make no mistake, he's really a sharp guy, and can tell you who got drafted when, and has had a lot of guys coming through like Dan Morgan, and then I'm trying to remember. There's been of course Scott Fitter worked with John, and now he's the GM in Carolina. So he's got a really good tree, and a lot of guys working for him that started out as kids, and that. I'm trying to remember the dang it. Well, there's a fullback that was out of University of Miami the same year I was drafted, and he just left and went somewhere else. I'm trying to remember his name, but he just is a guy that really is responsible for a lot of careers in the NFL.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to have that conversation, especially leading up to the draft. Now, of course, John will give us all of the behind-the-scenes details, who they're looking at, what they like about each guy, who's their priority, who they want to draft. If they're, that kind of information is going to be right there at our fingertips.
Yeah, we'd have to.
I'm kidding, of course.
He knows exactly what he can and can't say.
Yeah,
so.
but it's just good to get insight from him. Again, he's got such a great perspective, and he's been in the thick of everything that's gone on here, certainly. And then, but I think leading up to the draft is really going to be interesting. Just as guys get signed, there'll be free agents out there that get signed that may alter draft positions, and just kind of get his take on how that goes, and some of the poker that's played. We get a lot of GMs and head coaches and front office people that will use the media to send a signal out there, to get a story percolating out there, sort of a misdirection, and I love it. I love this time of year because it's such a game being played by everybody. Everybody knows you're just trying to decipher. All right, is that story real, or is that somebody saying, "Hey, man, here's what's going on," and they get it out there, and it's all deceptive practices that are fun to talk about and fun to watch as they happen. So it's going to be John Schneider again. In case you just tuned in, he's going to be joining us starting next Thursday, every Thursday at 4:00, and it'll go all the way up to Thursday of the NFL draft, which includes the very first night of the draft. So we are very excited to have Seahawks GM John Schneider as a weekly guest on this program. Again, something he does not do much of, and Dave was able to beat him in arm wrestling 2 out of 3 times, which meant he had to agree to come on the show.